it too.
Live streamed, got it.
Okay, are you able to do that one as well, Kim?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. We are live on YouTube.
Jennifer Hill needs it too.
Okay, hang on, let's see.
Things keep on popping up.
Tammy Delorme. Who was the other one?
Jennifer Hill.
Okay, I'm not seeing her. Hang on. Do you see her email address there?
No, let me see if I can find it.
I'll forward it.
You got it? Okay, I sent it to Tammy.
Jen would be jhill@bhsn.org.
Hill at, oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. So we got those being
officially open the meeting and do introductions then, Kim?
Yep, I'd like to call the meeting for February to order for Warren and Washington County Community Services Boards. Let's go ahead and start with introductions. And why don't we start in the room, Rob? And that way, hopefully everyone will be able to kind of funnel in then, and we'll do the ones online after that.
Sure. So I'll start. I'm Rob York, Director of Community Services for Warren and Washington Counties.
Charles, Office of Community Services.
Adele Potter, Washington County Community Service Board. Erin Murphy, Washington County.
Oh, can you share that for me? Thank you.
Okay. As I call your name, please feel free to unmute yourself and introduce yourself. I'll start with myself. I'm Kim Brayton. I'm Warren County. The next person I have on my screen is Kristen Hardy.
I am Kristen Hardy, a lieutenant with Washington County Sheriff's Office for the Washington County Community Services Board.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
Next, I have Cindy.
Hi, Cindy Wasson, Warren County.
Then I have Belinda.
Belinda Bradley, Warren County.
And then Heather.
Hi, Heather Adams Wendell, Washington County.
Okay, next on mine is Sue Mallory.
Hi, Sue Maury, Washington County, and I work for Washington County Alternative Sentencing, the Youth Bureau.
Great, thanks. Jim?
Jim Dexter, I guess formerly Warren County.
And then we have Christian.
Chris Hanchett, Warren County Department of Social Services Commissioner.
Sue McManus.
I am Sue McManus for Warren County Adirondack Employee Assistance Program.
And then we have Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Mead, Granville Junior Senior High School Principal here for Washington County.
Okay, Mary McLaughlin.
Hi, Mary McLaughlin from AHI. I work with both Warren and Washington County.
Jennifer. You're not mute. You're muted, Jennifer. There we go. Now I can hear you.
Jennifer Hill, Behavioral Health Services North, serving Warren and Washington County.
And then I see Dean.
Hi, this is Dean Klickner, Warren, Washington, Rose House, and I am the director here. We're part of People USA.
Hi, Dean. And we have Linda. Linda Wright.
Oh, hi, Linda Wright, Child Stole Coordinator for Warren, Washington with the Office of Community Services. Sorry.
That's okay. Adrian.
Hi, Adrian Slico, Crisis Services in Warren and Washington County, Northern Rivers.
Hi. Washington County Social Services. Is that Tammy?
Yes, I was going to help you out, Kim, if you didn't call on me. This is Tammy DeForm.
I figured that might be you.
Yeah, Commissioner for Washington County Department of Social Services, Washington Board member.
Crystal. Mallory, Crystal? Should maybe step away. All right, and then we got Amanda West.
Hi, Amanda West, Director, Council for Prevention, serving Warren, Washington counties.
Hi, Amanda. Okay, so introductions are over. Our first order of business is approval of minutes of the January, both organizational and regular meetings. I believe we have quorums for both counties now, so we can go ahead and do Warren County first. Do I have anybody from Warren County willing to make a motion to accept the meeting minutes? Assuming that everyone.
I'll
has
make
taken
that
their-
motion.
Okay, Christian, and I see a second from Belinda. Is there any discussion or any need for any edits to the minutes as we received them through the email? All in favor from Warren County, can you show me with a show of hands? Okay, any abstentions? Any objections? Okay, carried for Warren County. I'll hand it over to you, Heather, for Washington.
Hi, yes, so approval of minutes for organizational and regular meeting minutes for January 13th for Washington County. Hope everybody's had a chance to look at them and to read them over. Can I have a motion for Washington County?
Motion made.
Mary Murphy,
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Tammy and Adele.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion from Washington County concerning the minutes? Any all ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Excellent. Moving right along here. The next item on the agenda is new business. It's a budget contract amendment for Addictions Care Center of Albany. Rob, do you want to present that?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a request. It's actually Warren County only. This funding will flow through Warren County. But this is funding from the New York State Office of Addiction Services and Supports. Hi, Linda. I think we're getting some feedback, so if you could mute. Thank you. Yep, this is for $200,000 one-time funding from New York State OASAS for the Addictions Care Center of Albany. I think the boards are aware that Addictions Care Center of Albany is in the process of also developing a men's house here in Queensbury, a residence that will provide the same services that the women's house is providing over in Queensbury as well. This additional funding from OASIS is to help develop the men's residence and do renovations and get that program up and running this year. So their time frame is probably summer for opening, and that's assuming they can get these renovations done between now and then. The only renovations needed are interior. The location is 68 Quaker Road, if folks are not aware, and it's in close proximity to the other women's residence. So I would request approval for amend the budget for them and their contract from Warren County only.
So when the money is just for restorations?
Yeah, this is one-time money. So it'll be for renovations and capital improvements of the building.
Okay. Sue, you have a question?
I do, thank you. And this might be a systems question that I just don't understand. So I'm just going to ask it so I can learn. When monies like this come down, are they assigned to a specific program like this? In this case is the American Addiction Center, or is there a choice between where the money goes? Because I think there's, we have the Crandall Street men's program, which and many of us who've worked in the field know that needs updates. And also we have this new program coming through the American Addiction Center. So I'm just sort of asking from my own knowledge base how that gets balanced out. Like, certainly American Addiction Center have done a wonderful job with the first building they brought to town, and it's not about not supporting them. I'm just wondering, does Oasis say this is coming to American Addiction Center because of their new program, or is there the opportunity to support another organization? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, in this particular instance, this funding is designated for the Addictions Care Center of Albany.
Okay.
Sometimes funding does come down where it's not designated for an agency, and we, through our planning process and then through county procurement processes, we might have to issue an RFP for some of the types of funding. But that is not the case here. This funding is dedicated to this agency because they're already in the process of developing the property, and they ran into some issues, I believe some increased cost related to the materials and labor, et cetera, some material shortages due to COVID and those sorts of things. So there were these unanticipated increased costs.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that.
Are there any other questions about the funds? If no other questions, does anyone from Warren County move to, I see a hand raised from Cindy. Do I have a second? Belinda, thank you. All in favor from Warren County of accepting those funds to funnel through? Hand raise. Okay. Any objections? Abstentions? None on either. Motion carried for Warren County. Thank you very much.
I do just want to make one additional comment, I guess, regarding these various programs. The Crandall Street that we were all familiar with under 820 River Street did not move into the new Oasis regulations for residential redesign, at least not with that program. The Addictions Care Center of Albany, the programs they're developing, the women's residence in Queensbury and now this men's residence are under the regulations for Oasis under their residential redesign. It really brings more clinical services into the program, and they're able to do detox right on site. They have 3 levels of, or really 2 levels of services in the residence, stabilization and then rehabilitation. And it really allows for people to not only be detoxed, but for that initial stabilization and then planning for reintegration into the community, which is a little bit different level of services, a little bit different reimbursement rates and et cetera than what Crandall Street was doing. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Rob.
Yep.
Okay, moving right along then. The next item on our agenda is correspondence, kind of sad correspondence from Warren County Board Member Jim Dexter, who's submitted his resignation. Rob, do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to take the opportunity to publicly thank Jim for all of his years of service on the Warren County Community Services Board. I've really enjoyed working with Jim over the years. I think we really made some headway in redevelopment of school-based programming, and much of that was to your credit and helping to facilitate some of the right connections. And then also through BOCES, we learned of opportunities for school districts to receive some reimbursement of their expenses related to the school-based mental health program, and that had been a barrier in the past. So a lot of that is a credit to Jim, and really enjoyed your time here with us, Jim, and thank you for your service on the budget committee every year as well. And we're sad to see you leaving us so soon. We thought maybe you were leaving later in the year, but you all have relocated sooner than we anticipated.
Yeah, so thank you. We have, as a family, made a decision. Well, I'm retiring in August, And we had decided to build a house in another state, and things moved a little faster than what we originally thought. And so we sold our house, and all of a sudden we rented in Warren County last year, a townhouse. And all of a sudden I ended up moving to Saratoga County for a short period of time before my retirement. And it hit me that I'm no longer a Warren County resident, and that obviously precludes me from being a part of the group. I can't even remember how long I've been a part of it. I know it wasn't when I first got up here, but not too much longer. Rob had called me, and I have to say I didn't really had a good idea about education, but I didn't really have a great understanding of so many things that I've learned about these last several years on this board. And it's been a great learning opportunity for me, and building connections and collaborations with the board members. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed my time while working with the community service board members. I see so many, and I don't want to, I feel like I could go through so many of you and talk about, how much, respect I have for you, and how important your work is, and I know it. And so it's been a great opportunity for me, and in my role as the regional superintendent and the general supervising officer of the 31 school districts in the region, it's really been a great opportunity for me to help bring some of those things back and forth. And
Yes.
in the past,
I need to see if I can type.
a lot of the district superintendents had lived in Saratoga County
okay,
for one
good.
reason or another. And
All
I
right.
think I was the first one in quite a while.
I
to
don't
live in
need that open
Warren
right
County.
now, but that's what I needed.
Crystal, you need to mute.
Oh,
Please.
sorry.
Thank you.
Rob, thank you for your kind words, but really that was a much of a team effort. I still remember some of the initial conversations when we just realized, and I can't remember what year it is, the years do go by, but we've got to figure out ways to bring more services to the school districts. And really, I look at it as the aid that we were able to get at one point when the state education department allowed to reimburse some of the aids of the program and to aid some of the costs for the program really did make a difference. But really, it was the teamwork between the districts and Rob and so many who really started to get those approvals through and starting to really approach the boards and talking about the need to bring up a more of a clinical opportunity for so many of the children and the families. And of course, so much of the restrictions that we have in the schools are all about providing services. We don't provide clinical services to children's schools. Of course, we provide educational services, and we provide services to help children be successful in the educational setting. But, we clearly had a missing component. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. I see so many, and I'm thrilled Lisa's on this committee as an educator. I do know that they are going to start searching for my replacement. I have no idea where that person will live, but I think it's worth keeping an eye out. And as the news hits about, my successor, maybe trying to keep a spot on the boards if they do reside in Warren or Washington County. So thank you. It's just been a wonderful opportunity for me, and I'm sorry to have to go, but those are the rules, I guess. And I guess, you'll just continue to do the great work you've been doing. We're very fortunate this area to have a community services board that we have, I feel.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, Jim, thank you so much I've learned a lot from you, sitting in on a lot of the committees with you and things like that. So it's been lovely to have the experience of getting to know you and what you bring to the table with it. It's been very, very helpful. So we wish you luck.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you realize no matter where you are, there's silos, and you all help me. We got to keep breaking down those silos between what we do for the various populations. So thank you. I'm looking forward to new chapter. This is my 17th. I was in a school district for 5 years, and I've been a district superintendent for 12. 17 years is going to be enough for me, and it's time for a new chapter. 17 years of superintendency, and then a few others of doing some other things. But so I'm looking forward to kind of maybe not working every weekend and all those type of things.
Exciting new challenges. We're excited for you.
Thank you very
Anybody
much.
else have anything else that you'd like to?
Yep, we wish you well, Jim.
Thank
You
you
and your
very
family.
much.
Yep, your
You
family.
and your family, all the best.
Thank you. I wish you well, and I'm going to move on to, I'm in Lake George tonight working with the board on their superintendent search, so I'm going to move to that, I think.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jim.
See you in the morning, Jim.
Good luck, Jim.
Okay. It is sad to see him
I'm in
go,
a meeting
so-
with him at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, yuck. So sorry. No, it's sad to see him go. He did bring a lot to the board, but it sounds like it's an exciting opportunity for him. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a presentation by Linda Wright. So Rob, would you like to do the introductions?
Sure. I'd like to introduce Linda Wright. For those of you who don't know, she's our Children and Youth Single Point of Access Coordinator for our Office of Community Services. Linda does a great job coordinating a lot of different things related to her job. Not just managing referrals, but really managing a lot of very difficult situations and difficult cases, situations that helping families and children find access to appropriate services and get the appropriate services that they need to be successful. One of the things Linda has engaged in is, she had presented on this at a prior meeting, is the systems of care in Washington County. So as we go forward throughout the coming year, you'll be hearing updates from her on systems of care in Washington County. But I thought it would be a good idea to have Linda present today a little bit about her role in the office, and then also a little bit about the single point of access for those that may not be familiar with that process, or for the boards to be made aware of really the a little bit of the statistics related to her work as the single point coordinator. So I'll turn it over to Linda, and I see you've got the screen share working, so that's great.
Yes, I actually did that. Thank you, Rob. So as Rob said, I was going to present today on just CSPOA and looking at 2021. But as you know, Rob and I had talked a little bit. He had said that, you know, with new members being on the board, I also thought I might share a little bit about the history of SPOA and what CSPOA is. So we're going to kind of just do that really quickly. Hopefully it'll be a reminder for some and some new information for others. So meeting children's needs really started with, you know, as you know, the LGU and the requirements that are for an LGU to develop community prevention, rehabilitation, treatment supports and services on a continuum. And this is to improve the expansion and existence of services for individuals that have SMI, which are more the adults. SED is for the children, and then substance use and developmental disabilities. Also, under the local government unit is the planning and integration of community and state services, and then developing the oversight for comprehensive and integrative, cost-effective system services across the board. And so that's kind of the focus of, you know, Rob's job. And so what happened was, in 1991, the history of CSPOA was that they did a study in 1991 under the New York system of children's mental health services. And as a result, that they recognized that there were services in place and there were supports available, and they were pretty much comprehensive for youth and with SED and their families. However, what they recognized that there were challenges and not necessarily good coordination of care, as well as prioritization of who gets what service. So from that initiative, this resulted in a single point of access. That's what SPOA stands for, single point, and that was developed under the governor's new initiative in 2000 and 2001. So SPOAs became a part of the local government unit working under, like myself working under Rob, and in 2001, and that talked about linking and providing timely services to individuals that need the most intensive services under the OMH system, and those youth that were diagnosed or qualified for serious emotional disturbances. And how do we support not only the youth and their families?
That'd be great.
Local government unit across New York State was established with a SPOA, so that
Thank you.
with every local government unit, there is a SPOA person or coordinator, adult and children or children SPOA. And so the SPOAs continue to work not only under the systems part, but it's also important to involve parents and guardians as well as youth in aspects, in some aspect of the child SPOA meetings, service deliveries to ensure that treatment is family driven and youth guided and working with that approach. So SPOAs also ensure accountability across the board. So it's not only with children and families and making sure that they get their services, but looking about accountability for providers. Are we offering the right service at the right time? So in the history of SPOAs, the goal for SPOAs is to support the LGU's responsibility to ensure appropriate access to priorities based on need, and then also to ensure accountability between systems and providers. In that ensuring that part, we also look at doing the referral process and accepting referrals as SPOA as a standard, and then practicing the values of accountability across the board with systems and working with children and utilizing those systems and services. So the role of the SPOA continues, and when we look at maintaining that ongoing contact, and so out of that, there are regularly scheduled SPOA meetings, and so we maintain ongoing contact not only with providers, but when children become high needs and need more supports, the SPOA also supports that in establishing that contact across various systems. And so we might work with primary care providers, we work with other mental health providers, substance providers, depending on what that youth and family need. And so it is across various systems, all the way from juvenile justice.
Yeah.
And so that was a list.
How are you? Hey, Jen, how are you doing?
The list of the service providers or
I
systems
did.
that
I did. Thank you so much
come
for
in
helping
contact
me.
with. Did I go backwards? Yes. Okay. In a general, looking also at the role of the SPOA is to serve, initially designed as to serve as a primary door for youth, families, and providers to access services.
Again, I'm trying to, and I know Alex had said a note about this.
I'm sorry,
Excuse me, Linda. I believe it might be Davia.
Yes.
Hi, Davia.
Hi.
Can you try muting? I think we're getting some feedback.
I thought I was muted. I am the queen of muting. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem. I was saying I thought I heard feedback. Thank you.
Apologize.
So I still hear him.
That's it.
Okay. So, and not only being that single point of access, but that primary door entry for services, especially the high-end, high-need services, or the more intensive services. The other piece of the SPOA is also to collect information and data, not only on an individual level, which is looking at the individual, again, making sure that we have complete information to make the right decision for the right service, and also having signed consents so that individuals and youth and families can get the services they want or need, but also looking at that on a larger scale as far as collecting data for where we see service delivery, where we see gaps and barriers in that bigger picture. Again, I mentioned that we meet regularly, and that goes into the planning and the continuum of access services to link to not only non-SPOA services, which are really that referral part to the case management type piece, or respite services, or even family support services, but also non-traditional services. And so looking at the person as an individual whole, and what are those traditional and non-traditional services under mental health. So when we look at the big picture, this is kind of my pretty diagram of what our focus is to keep children and families in our center, and then look at how those services wrap around that children and family and what services might they need. So every child might not need each of those services that are identified around this circle. However, how do we tie into educational services and supports? What could be beneficial and meeting that? And can we, as a SPOA person, do I sometimes participate in CSE meetings? Absolutely. Or if they're looking at higher level of care within even an educational system, I tend to support the child and family on some level and that transition as well. And that could also be with juvenile justice or DSS as well, when we're struggling with trying to meet the child's and family's needs where they're at. Okay, thought I had it. So, however, in 2015, there were changes that occurred, and as part of these changes, as part of the reconstruction and the fundamental redesign of New York State children's systems, they had hoped to achieve a more measurable improvement on health outcomes as a whole, and then also looking at sustaining cost control and then more effective administration across the board. So there were some changes that happened with SPOA. And in 2019, there was the development and implementation of the health homes. Health homes, as some people know, is not an actual home or physical place. It is a group of healthcare and service providers working together to ensure that youth or individuals and families get the care that they need in order to stay healthy and to be better health and stay healthy. What they do is develop a care plan that maps out the services that they'll need and put them in place so that they have better health. They continue to support healthcare. They support healthcare providers. They support the mental health and substance abuse aspects of an individual. They also look at medication, possibly even housing, social service benefits, transportation, and other community providers. So that is the focus of the health home. So it's looking at the whole person. So that became changed the role of SPOA in the sense that we don't necessarily get all of the referrals as the primary entry or gateway. However, there is a lot of coordination that I do with, and most SPOAs do with the health home providers, not only the health home entities, but also their providers and their care managers and supportive services. And so I jumped ahead and just kind of shared that. So I continue to work hard to continue those relationships. CSPOs also remain connected, and I remain connected with community providers and county departments. And this is to continue to improve shared accountability and to improve the workflow of what's needed, provide training if that's needed, and also support local systems of care. And Robert mentioned that's kind of in Washington County, what we're doing is looking at that collaboration and partnership under a full local systems of care for Washington County. Some of the committees that I'm involved in and participate in are Washington County Systems of Care, which I help to facilitate that approach. But Why Reconnect, which is in Warren County, which is under our probation, and Amy Secor actually facilitates that, but I participate in as an active role on that committee as well. And there's a multiple disciplinary team for Warren and Washington County. They're both separate meetings that supports our care system, which are those individuals that have been exposed or have had sexual trauma. And then on a state level, the Children's Regional Planning Consortium is a task force that goes forward, and I participate on that on the Children and Family Subcommittee, as well as their Crisis Management Task Force to support crisis services, and that also is under the supporting what does it look like for the police reform. So we're doing a lot of work in that aspect. On a local level, the hospital, myself, and our mobile crisis team work together to look at what are the crises and how do we support our children and families meeting those crises, and what gaps do we have in services? So we kind of work in tandem in looking at our crisis services as well. Also sit on the Washington County Advisory Committee, and then Warren County's Interagency Committee. That's the meeting that they were talking about at 7:30 tomorrow morning. In addition to coordinating other individual our coordinated CCSI meetings that we have, that's on an individual level. And when you look at CCSI, we actually have 3 tiers for CCSI, so I participate on all 3 tiers. So how do I continue to support services? Another little diagram of looking at the different age of service providers and children and families, and how to continuing to keep them at the foundation of care and support, and as they might enter any of those doors. So just a little data that I wanted to share with you, looking at SPOA, and this is specifically children's SPOA, or CSPOA as they call it. 2000, when we looked at the data for 2000, I had 147 referrals that came through for SPOA for just case management, care management services, and respite. Out of that number, there were about 10 referrals that were multiple of 3 or more contexts or referrals and supports. In 2021, I only received 75 referrals. However, out of that 75 referrals, there were 23 that had multiple encounters and needing of higher level of care or more wraparound support, or multiple CCSI meetings. So the intensity of the need for the children was greater, I think, in 2021 by seeing the number of CCSI meetings, and like I said, that was 3 or more meetings, and some are definitely in excess of probably 10 meetings. So the number and the intensity, I think, although the referral number has gone down because there's multiple doors that they can enter, the intensity has increased. So I just wanted to leave you with a quick idea of what the role of CSPOA is. So I wanted to give you a little case study. And if we looked at it demographically, I had a 15-year-old female that received Medicaid. The referral came, I got a call from a health home care manager, and they wanted to do a SPOA referral, and they were considering residential care for her. It was a child that was adopted. There was also a referral for PENS based on her behavior. She had significant running away behavior. She's had 5 hospitalizations in the psychiatric hospitalizations in the past 12 months. She was frequently caught texting or sexting older men, would also tried to meet up with those older men, had a history of suicide ideation. She had lost interest in any activities, although she initially would want to participate, she would lose interest very, very quickly. And then also had some potential for substance use, and we were concerned about possible trafficking. So in that, I didn't type out the things, but the steps that SPOA and how SPOA could help. And initially that I was working to collect all the information, then that was getting her educational information, collecting that, also getting signed releases and consents, working with the conversations and working with the care manager as well as the parent to make sure that we had all the documentation that we needed to collect to begin an RTF referral, which is a residential treatment referral. Also then continuing to assess to ensure that all providers were on the same page, so that not only was the referral source, the care manager looking for that, but looking at what was PENS and should we implement the use of a person in need of supervision, which is a PENS through a juvenile sense. Would that be a more supportive role? Because we look at release restrictive. And so how do we tease out, did we give that service in that system enough time to actually see if they can make a difference without going to residential treatment? Because when we talk about a residential treatment, that's a higher level of care, and that was a removal. So we spent some time looking at, have we exhausted all the community supports? And that required multiple meetings on CCSI meetings, as well as educational meetings to kind of tease that out. From that, continue to assist the health home care manager in completing that RTF referral, collecting that and submitting that RTF referral, and then working with the state on the levels of answering and responding back to the questions of needing more information and clarification of information. Also, and that as we were looking at that RTF packet, looking at peer support and how could we have a family peer support person come in and work with the mom in that transitional planning, and how that could be supportive in knowing that your child might be going to a residential treatment facility, and then also being able to allow her to express and to deal with her own emotional needs of this transition for her family as it was going through these stressors. Continue to also then continue as that child was identified for residential treatment facility, worked with the state to provide updates until a residential treatment facility was identified at that time, working with the residential treatment facility to make sure that they were linked and connected to what they might need to help that transition for her to go into the residential treatment facility. We also looked at building safety nets until that possibility was able to happen by offering respite services, as well as kind of coordinating with the care manager and getting that done at the Wright house. After that, the CSPO, then the child actually ended up going into a residential treatment facility. And then I, as a SPOA coordinator, continue to work with the residential treatment facility until, as in their initial meetings, and then as she continued to progress in that her treatment. And then again, when they were talking about discharge for, and coming back out into the community, a SPOA referral was then done again so that we could get her linked to community support services, case management under the health home, as well as the wraparound services to ensure that she was connected, and any other supportive services that she might need. And then that transition out continued to kind of follow on a more or less involved role, but if there were needs for things to escalate again. Luckily, this young lady did really well after our residential treatment facility. So she was just kind of monitored with her health home care manager. However, as a SPOA coordinator, if there were challenges that then presented themselves again, I would get back involved. So that's just kind of one of the scenarios of the role of a SPOA. So that's pretty much the presentation. Again, my name is Linda Wright, and I'm the Children's SPOA Coordinator for Warren and Washington County, and that's my email address and phone number. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Linda. You really do a great job here in that role. I hope the board gets a picture of just the breadth of everything encompassed in the work that Linda does. She really consistently in our conversations is infusing, child and family driven principles and talking about trauma-informed care and keeping all those things in the forefront of all of her work. And really thank you, Linda, for really serving as our children, youth, and family expert here in the office. And thank you for all the work that you do in the community for our residences. Should I just go ahead and move on then to the informational items then?
Yes, please.
Yep. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the 2022-23 New York State executive budget. I think folks are aware that governor has come out with her budget, and that's part of the process. Now, the let's back to that. There'll be negotiation, and we'll see what ends up in a final approved budget a little bit later as we go through the spring and see where we land. But we'd like to take a look at what is the governor proposing, good or bad, and impacts to our services or our agencies, our counties, and usually rely on a memo that my statewide association puts together. But they still haven't gotten that out yet this year. But as you can imagine, many associations put together this sort of information. So I was able to pull together from some other entities some highlights that they're noting in terms of the governor's budget. There is, on the positive side, there is a one-time COLA, which is 5.4%, which is something that a lot of the providers were advocating for. And that will include OASIS, OMH, OPWDD, OTDA, and OCFS, at least to some degree in each of those state agencies. There's funding in the budget for minimum wage adjustments. You know, as you recall, that was sort of like a multi-year phase in. Let's see, some other few highlights I just hit here. There, under the Office of Mental Health, there's some 15% rate increase to the residential treatment facilities. So that's a fairly significant rate increase, I believe, for them. There's $7.5 million to expand and better fund the home-based crisis intervention programs. Northern Rivers operates a program. It's actually a tri-county program, Warren, Washington, Saratoga counties for us. So we'll be having them presenting at a later meeting this year, early first part of the year here. And so maybe we'll hear more from them about how that might impact on their HCBI program. There's funding to expand evidence-based practices, undisclosed or undefined amount at this time. And there's funding to support a new Youth Act RFP. So the ACT is the assertive community treatment. We currently have an adult team. This is really one of our most intensive level of programming for adults in the community. It's really a multidisciplinary team that has the ability to go out and meet folks wherever they are and engage in treatment and provide medications, et cetera, all in the community. And Northern Rivers operates that program for us. And we don't have the similar type of a program for youth. So if this RFP comes out, we'll certainly be working with our providers to see if anybody's interested in developing a Youth Act program, because that would be very beneficial in the continuum of services for children, youth, and families. Let's see, a few other highlights that I noticed in some of these. Folks are familiar with the Joseph P. Dreyer Veterans Program, a peer-to-peer program. There's a proposal in the governor's budget to include $7.7 million, which is an increase of $3.2 million for this program, and that would allow every county in the state to have a Dreyer program. So I hope that stays in the budget. 35 million for implementation of 988. We talked about that at our last meeting, that 988 will be coming sort of mid-year, and that will be an alternative to 911. People can contact 988 for mental health related services and supports. And we'll keep talking about the crisis services as we go through the year as well. Let's see, it says there's 119 million for Community Mental Health Reinvestment Act funding and extends the statute through 2023. There's funding for worker bonuses. Let's see, here's a sheet from the Families Together group. They note that there's 10.7 million for integrating behavioral health supports available through Medicaid to the Child Health Plus insurance program. Reinvestment of $111 million recouped from Medicaid managed care overspending on behavioral health for Office of Mental Health and Office of Addiction Services and Supports to fund rate increases for mental health and addiction services. There's a note here of $50 million for in state ed for what they're calling Recovery from COVID School program. So this is funding that will go to school districts for high need school districts to hire mental health professionals, expand school-based mental health services and other related programming. So we'll keep an eye on that and who might be eligible. I don't know by that definition of high need school districts, whether our local districts will qualify or not, but we'll see. There's $15 million for school climate, alternatives to discipline and other school-based mental health grants, and $400 million in funding for OASIS programs, including mobile team expansion, opioid stewardship programs, and harm reduction. I know that a lot of this is very general, and you know, these are kind of like bullet points that are pointed out, and as the budget process moves forward, you know, we'll get more and more detail on what these really entail. On the intellectual and developmental disability side, I did see that there was a commit of an additional $15 million to develop housing, expand independent living opportunities for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. There's funding to continue rate enhancements for something called intensive behavioral services and improve connections between programs and individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities with the county-based mobile crisis services, which is on the mental health side. So we do see the state agencies trying to work more collaboratively in the crisis arena and trying to, in recognition of the fact that the people who reach out in crisis oftentimes have multiple diagnoses and co-occurring type of diagnoses. So after the Conference of Local Mental Hygiene Directors sends out their memo, I will forward that out to the board so that you have that additional detail. And we'll probably cover that memo again in our March meeting as well. Any questions or anyone hearing anything else in the budget? Okay.
Rob,
yep.
Does the community reinvestment money have to be for new programs, or can it be for programs that are already in existence but need to be bumped up, you know, need more money?
I think that that's the latter, what you just said. I think this is increases for existing programs.
Okay, all right, good.
It's not really like back in the day when we got, you know, those pots of money and we could just plan new services.
Right.
I think this is trying to boost what's existing.
Okay, good.
Okay. Also just wanted to note that I had offered to our new members on the Community Services Board opportunity for an orientation to the board, a little bit about our history, mental hygiene law, how we function, that sort of thing. And so I sent out a doodle poll. I did include some of our more recent members as well that I realized that we probably never really got around to orientation with those members. So those folks are welcome to join in as well. And we'll have that orientation before our next meeting, I believe. Then on the 2021 Office of Community Services Achievements and 2022 Goals, there's a handout in your packet. At the beginning of every year, I like to utilize these documents with the board. I also use them with our county legislatures, our boards of supervisors, just to give them an idea. It's really not just accomplishments of our office or of the board, it's really accomplishments of our system, because many of these are, as you know, with our local services planning process, that really is a team effort with all of our provider agencies, because they deliver the service at the end of the day. And so these are really collective goals and achievements, but I won't go through them all. I just provided as a handout for you. But it gives you an idea of some of the goals that we have for the year, and highlights, some of the things from the previous year that we were able to achieve. And then I take each year, as it rolls over, I take the previous year goals and see how did we do. So that's the purpose of that document. And if anybody has any questions on it, you can let me know. I did notice that in my 2022 goals, I have a few other things that just sort of came to mind and add to that. So it's kind of a living document and a work in progress. I don't think that I added on here the implementation of the systems of care, Linda. So I think I want to make sure to double back to you, and maybe you can help me write a goal for that implementation of that systems of care grant. And then really one of the things that came about as part of our discussions related to systems of care and our services being child and family driven and focused is, to what degree do youth and families have a voice on at the policymaking level? So one of the goals I'd like to add for the coming year is we have a couple vacancies, one on each board actually, but trying to identify either a young adult who has lived experience in receiving services, or a family member, a parent, maybe, to serve on our community services board to increase that voice at the policymaking level. So I'd like to add that goal as well. All right, I also want to provide an update on the Joseph P. Dreyer Adirondack peer-to-peer program. As folks are aware, there's currently an RFP out. It was issued by Warren County on behalf of 2 counties. We did have 3 responses to that. We pulled together a selection committee, but we've run into a slight snag right now where there's a little bit of confusion about the funding. Previously, the funding was all coming through Warren County, and we received a state aid letter from Washington County this week that had additional peer-to-peer veteran funding on it for Washington County, which was never previously there. So we're trying to determine, is the state breaking out the funding now between the 2 counties? There used to be direction on the state aid letter that the Warren County funding would be used for a bi-county program. And that language is no longer there. They removed it. So there must be some intention for removing that. So we're trying to clarify that right now up through the chain, through Office of Mental Health. They have to coordinate with the New York State Senate because this funding is special funding from the New York State Senate. So we're trying to get some answers to that, and then we'll move forward with the direction if it'd be the will of both counties that we continue to move toward a bi-county program. We've got the RFP, we've got proposals, and the selection committee will move in that direction. If each county is now going to receive their own funding, then I want to make sure that each county is still on, what their preference is in terms of a joint program, or maybe each county wants to do something different. So there's a lot of people involved that need to be part of these decisions. So that's why things are where they are right now. Any questions on the peer-to-peer? Okay. All right, and then Crystal, I don't know if you're still on. I think you're there. We had put on here again, just a reminder about the CSB member code of ethics forms, and I'd like to thank everybody for who has completed those and returned them. I think, Crystal, you had mentioned maybe there were just a few we're still missing. And
Yep. We are missing Kim Brayton and Cindy Wasson.
oh, good. So we know who they are. So what we can do is we'll reach out to you to see how we can best facilitate getting those back. Thank you. All right. I don't think that I have anything else. Well, actually, one thing I just mentioned, there's been a little bit of comment, confusion sometimes about the links for the meetings. And we do try to send those out, you know, in a notice just a few days prior to the board meeting. But some people have also raised the question about why we don't utilize calendar invites. And a calendar invite, you know, gets the meeting right into your calendar, and the link is right there usually with it. And it seems to be very convenient, you know, in terms of the meetings I attend. It's, you know, you're running from meeting to meeting and you just pop onto the calendar what's next sometimes, and the links is right there. So I think we're going to experiment a little bit with doing the calendar invites. We'll probably do them in addition to the notices. We also, you know, had been cautious, I think, in the beginning, especially about sending out the Zoom link to a broad audience, because I don't know if you recall, but there was, you know, at times people would, you know, Zoom into a meeting that they weren't really attached to and disrupt it or something. So we sort of kept the Zoom link, you know, more or less to the active members and to some of our agencies, et cetera, thinking that the public participation part of it and the would be the YouTube broadcast, et cetera. So as long as we're doing the Zoom meetings, and again, maybe we'll get through these in the next few months even, and be back to more in person later in this year. But while we're doing the Zoom, we'll experiment with the calendar invites. And I just need to clarify a little bit, you know, who from our agency partners to include in the calendar invites. And so I'll be working with our agencies to figure out the right folks. And so just wanted to let the board know that we'll experiment with that a little bit. Hopefully that makes it easier for everyone to access the link.
Any questions for Rob? Well, Rob, on behalf of both of the boards, I actually wanted to thank you. And I was seeing your past accomplishments this past year and your goals for this year. You guys do a fantastic job keeping both of these counties focused, our priorities in order, and focused on, you know, implementing really great evidence-based practices that really kind of make a difference for our community. So we thank you for all that you guys do over there. Thank you very much. Anybody else have anything for Rob, or anybody else in the room? Any questions, concerns? If there's nothing, then I say that we call the meeting adjourned, and we will see you guys in March. And Krista, I'll be in touch with you. Thanks for calling me out on that.
Not a problem. I had to. Rob made me.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.